Howdy, this is Lemmy with RevZilla TV, here to talk to you today about Dynojet's AutoTune kit. The AutoTune kit is a piece of equipment that makes the complex job of tuning very, very simple. They offer these things in a single channel, a dual channel, a Harley configuration. There's something out there for just about every bike. Sport bike, Metric Cruiser, Harley, you're covered. If you've got a Power Commander or a Power Vision for your bike, there is going to be an AutoTune kit that could be coupled up and stacked on top of that to help that tuner work even better. Use our bike finder, get right into the nitty gritty, put in what you got there, and if you don't see what you need, definitely get in touch with a Gear Geek. We'll help you through it. Installation on these can be kind of difficult. We're looking at 2 to 3 beards on our 3-beard installation system. The reason being is that there is some possible welding that has to occur. You may have to remove your exhaust, weld some bungs in, or have them welded in for you and reinstall your exhaust. It's not for the faint of heart. However, once it's actually installed, use of the system is pretty easy. Let's get right into the blood and guts of this thing. We're going to talk about what it is that this is going to do for you and how it's going to make your life a little bit better. So the AutoTune kit effectively winds up putting oxygen sensors, good ones, wideband oxygen sensors, where either a narrowband or no oxygen sensor has been before. Now you might need that broken down for you a little bit, and I understand. If there's no oxygen sensor at all in your exhaust, your computer's not able to see the results of its fueling. So it'll add or subtract fuel based on what's programmed into it, but it doesn't really know how it's doing, so it just sort of keeps doing what it was programmed to do. If you have narrowband oxygen sensors, which is what many bikes come equipped with from the factory, that's kind of a step up. The oxygen sensor sort of reports some information back to the computer and says, hey, this is what's going on. I'm a little lean. I'm a little rich. It sort of works like a light switch. Think of it as being very binary. It either tells the computer add more fuel or take some fuel away, and it does this many times a second. Wideband sensors like Dynojet is giving you here sort of are a step up because they're able to quantify for the computer exactly how much or how little fuel to add. Instead of just saying, you're a little lean or you're a little rich, what it does, it actually gives it a percentage, it gives it a value. So the computer, instead of having to stumble and sort of guess and try and home in on the correct value, rather it just knows how much fuel to throw in there. Why is this helpful? Well, in the traditional tuning process, after you modify a bike, typically it gets strapped up to a dynamometer. The problem with a dynamometer, there's kind of a few of them actually. Firstly, they're expensive. Boy, dynos do not go cheap. They charge by the hour, the hourly rate is really high. If your bike's a little kludgy to tune too, your price is going to go up. It's also kind of hard on the bike. You're running from 0 to red line several times to make those dyno pulls, as they call them. And that can be a little bit, it's just hard on the bike. You're really running the bike hard and hot and fast in a very short period of time. The AutoTune kit steps in and sort of takes care of a lot of those things for you simply by having a standalone system that's able to easily interpret and analyze your exhaust gases and feed that information back to the computer so the computer is more quickly able to figure out what it is that your bike wants. Your stock ECM is usually pretty good at figuring out fueling. However, when you start modifying your bike, you change the air cleaner, you change the exhaust, maybe you add some cams or you have head work done, maybe you have a big bore kit, you're getting farther and farther away from stock. So the stock ECM is not bad at throwing fuel in for a stock bike, but the problem is you've changed your bike's parameters significantly from stock, and the ECM usually doesn't know what's going on. The AutoTune kit helps it figure those things out. That's sort of why these are so wonderful. For those of you who plan on modifying your bike, maybe now you're starting small, just an air cleaner or an exhaust, but you know you're going to progress into some of those heavy modifications. This is nice because this system grows with you as you modify your bike. It's sort of nice because it's a one-shot, buy once, cry once sort of a piece. It's expensive up front, but you don't have to keep buying stuff down the road. It's going to work with whatever you wind up putting on there. For those of you who change parts out frequently, whether it's because you continually hop stuff up or you like to bounce around a little bit. I know some guys like to throw different exhausts, different air cleaners on just because they have them, they like the look, they like to change things up a little bit. It can be kind of a pain having to redial the bike back in for, another air cleaner, another exhaust. This sort of takes that away. What you wind up doing really is bolting on your parts and zipping down the road. AutoTune takes care of the rest. It's able to figure out what your bike wants, what your bike needs, and it's like having a dyno guy sort of working on your bike as you're riding it. Makes it really easy to tune, to change things up. And for those of you guys who are racers, if you're on and off with parts a lot, this sort of cuts down the time you're going to be spending doing test runs and test pulls trying to figure out if your bike is running quite right. So we mentioned earlier installation can get a little bit hairy, 2 to 3 beards depending on what your particular bike needs for installation. There's a few things to think about depending on what kind of bike you have. There's several kits available. Some of them are single channel, some are dual channel. There's also a Harley specific kit available, and the only thing that really differs between them is the style of connector you have on the end. The single channel kit will include a single O2 sensor. This is useful for, say, a sport bike that has 4 exhaust headers merging down into one spot. The dual kits are great for, say, a metric V-twin, where you've got each pipe sort of individual from each other. You can actually put an oxygen sensor in each exhaust pipe. The Harley kits are just like the dual channel, only they include Harley specific plugs so you don't have to hack up your wiring harness. Other than that though, the kits function the same way and they really look pretty similar. We had talked earlier about that welding. If you have no oxygen sensors on your bike at all right now, your pipes will have to come down. You will have to weld in these bungs or have them welded in for you at your local fab shop. If you've already got oxygen sensors in your bike, it may or may not be easier. You may still need to block off a smaller 12mm sensor that's on many narrow bands because these wideband sensors that are included are 18mm. So you may still wind up needing to block off your ports that are already there and still weld in these bungs. Again, the bungs are included. If you already have an 18mm sensor on your bike, it shouldn't be that difficult. You're really just going to replace that sensor. You're going to remove your old sensor, screw these in place of them, and you should be set to fly. Again, a lot of this is going to be dependent on what you already have. For those of you folks who are thinking about this in terms of a performance package, and I imagine many of you are, keep in mind that many aftermarket exhaust manufacturers know that people are going to wideband sensors. So a lot of the times they will make exhausts with both 12mm and 18mm ports directly in them. Keep in mind too, they also may include some sort of an adapter. They may have an 18mm port in everything and adapt down to 12. So if you do your homework a little bit, if you're doing this in conjunction with an aftermarket exhaust, you may be able to save yourself some pretty significant work. It's a great time to install one of these if you already have the exhaust off. Beyond that, installation is pretty cut and dry. You're going to wire these puppies in and you're going to be set to fly after that. As soon as that happens, all your other performance parts really should sort of start to come together. When you're zipping down the road, this is going to do a majority of the tuning for you. It shouldn't be too difficult. So once you sort of put in that time on the initial installation, especially if you're going to be modifying your bike later, this thing's going to take care of just about everything you need. I think the AutoTune kit does a great job of taking a tedious task and making it easy, and it also is something that pays off. If you put in a weekend of hard work, you're going to have a piece that really grows with your bike, and I think that's why it winds up being so popular with so many riders. Matter of fact, you can click below and check out what some of those riders have had to say about these things, and if you have one of these, maybe think about leaving a review for another rider. Let them know how this worked out for you, if there are any pitfalls or stumbles that you had installing these in your bike. If you have questions further than that, we can always help you out. See us at RevZilla.com, or you can always get us by phone. 877-792-9455 will get you a Gear Geek live on the line. I'm Lemmy. I'm out of here.